Welcome to the Renews podcast with me, Stephen Dunn.
In the long run, the direction is very clear. It doesn't mean that any government cannot do any harm. The car is running currently on the motorway at 70 miles an hour. We see the target already, and it might be a bit bumpy now going forward, but going into reverse at full speed is wrong.
Claus, it's great to chat. We're at All Energy in Glasgow. What's been your initial reaction to what you've heard this morning at the conference?
Yeah, it's full of energy here. It's buzzing, and I had the chance to listen to Michael Shanks and his speech here. Also announcing the energy independence bill. It was now published this morning, announced by the King. And it was really interesting to listen to him because it is about the big topics in the energy industry currently. Because we see now the second oil price or gas price shock in 5 years. And it does remind me a bit of the 70s and 80s. And at that time we had quite a strong reaction as a society and as countries. We built nuclear. We are now farther down the line and we have new technology and we can do more, we can do different things. And the speech was also about how do we become independent from fossil fuel imports. And that's crucial for us because this is what's driving the costs currently. We have to reduce the dependence on gas. And how do we do that, I feel, is we, on the one hand, have to electrify more. So really build out heat pumps, EVs, industrial processes and so on. But also increase the build-out of clean power. This is wind, solar, potentially nuclear. This is bringing costs down in the end. And plus we have to decouple this with flexibility because we can't run the country on wind and solar alone. It needs to be coupled with flexibility. And then we have also demand side, not only like batteries. And then we have a new system, and I really hope that we go in this direction. I haven't read the bill yet. I heard it's about permitting or some accelerations of grid build out. That would be good. But we really have a chance now to move forward and really deploy renewables, potentially nuclear at larger scale, and become more independent from these fossil fuel imports. And there I see some people advocating for turning the clock back, right? And that to me doesn't work, right?
Well, there was a point I wanted to pick up with you. You provided an interview piece for the Renews show dailies for All Energy. And I was struck by one of your points. You wrote that we're racing to secure the UK's energy future by breaking our addiction to expensive fossil fuels, yet energy has been dragged into a pointless culture war. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows the system is complex, but the direction is clear. Electrify and cut costs. There's too much noise from alpha males with big egos but little knowledge. Yep. Maybe you could expand on that point and tell us what you mean.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I am an engineer by training, right? And I wish sometimes these debates would be a bit more based on facts and a bit toned down. I feel it's a lot about shouting matches and just stuff being said that is questionable. And I rather have 5 engineers sitting in a room thinking about the energy system because it is complex and there is no quick solutions. We're talking about decades here, right? And all these big shifts in the energy system, they have happened over 30, 40 years lifespans, right? And then there's a clear direction, I feel, globally, which is going towards clean power and flexible solutions and digital solutions. Mm-hmm. And then I hear some people shouting out, yeah, let's just drill some oil from the North Sea, full stop. And that is, we need gas and we need oil going forward, for sure. But we have to reduce the dependence. And the answer is not that we are now going back to the 90s and drill there's nothing left, by the way, in the North Sea, and it is not cheap. It's expensive, and then this quick fix is is too shallow and it's not really solving the problem.
And we're talking after a weekend of political results in elections across the UK where, you know, the voices that you're referring to, largely from the right, have made big political gains in certain elections, particularly in the English councils. You know, you work for a big Swedish utility that's active across Europe in multiple jurisdictions. How is that emergence of a political culture that is opposed to renewables being felt in the boardroom in Stockholm?
Well, first of all, let's see what happens, right? The election is 3 years away. The second is, I mean, we are working in many different countries, and we see elections every 4 or 5 years. And we have seen changes in several countries, also in the UK. I mean, the last election and the policies of today are in principle supportive and the right direction, I would say. We have seen other countries where this is more difficult. We work with all, of course, governments in any country, and we drive the right ideas forward. In principle, this has a potential for damage if you come with the wrong recipes of the past and don't move forward. At the same time, I mean, look at the US. We have someone in charge who is in favor of drilling. If you look at last year, I mean, I guess the US added 130 terawatt hours of new production, and that is like a third of the UK, so quite massive growth. And the majority of that was covered by solar and wind. So yeah, despite all the talking, there's facts on the ground, which is costs and how easy can you deploy technologies, how fast are they coming online. That is more important in the end, and that is the fundamentals which are changing the overall picture.
So the political situation is, to put it simply, noise that shouldn't distract companies like Vattenfall and others from the core task of electrifying the grid. Is that essentially what you...
Yeah, it's more that in the long run, I'm pretty sure the direction is very clear. We will see clean power globally, and we will see a new system that is emerging already now. It doesn't mean that any government cannot do any harm. Yes, it's possible, but that is more of a delay of the transition and not like a total reversal. I mean, this is like the car is running currently on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, and we see the target already, and it might be a bit bumpy now going forward because it's not easy. It's a transition, but going into reverse at full speed is wrong.
In the UK, obviously your area for Vattenfall has been active in many different forms, in offshore, onshore, solar, everything for a long, long time.
Yeah.
In onshore wind, you're building, I think, Claus Wattendrup 2 at the moment. Yep. You've just unveiled plans for a new onshore project in England.
Right.
Before we maybe get into that detail, is there anything that gives you just a pause for thought around continued investment in the UK based on the political climate?
No, the UK is a core market for us. It's an important market for us. We are strong here, especially in wind, onshore and offshore, as you say. And we have a very competent team that is developing wind farms since decades, and we continue. And this is also, I mean, you know, that is, you don't develop a wind farm in a year, right? It's a longer process. And we have started activities a decade ago, and we will continue this, right? So there's a long-term thinking behind, and the current climate is actually the recent legislation, and also what I have just superficially seen of the energy independence bill is in principle helping. It's speeding up permitting. The intention of the grid reform is also right, although we are waiting for some great two offers desperately. But in principle, it's the right direction, and therefore it is supportive. The current government in the UK is more supportive than other governments in some other countries we're active in, I have to say.
So focusing on some of the projects, and Claus Wattendrup obviously is the one, the second phase.
Yeah.
I think you're about to start construction, or maybe you already have. Could you give us a bit of an update on that project and what the plan is for the next sort of a year to 18 months building that out?
Yes. I mean, we have taken a final investment decision, and we are in the process of preparing the construction, and real work at site will start in summer, I think. Yes. And then it's in full swing, right? We're erecting all the first foundations, then turbines, the cabling and so on. And that's a good project. And we have a sister project, Clash and Darrock 1, so to say, and therefore it's an extension. That also makes a lot of sense. You have the same stakeholders, you have the same history there in this area, and also the link to the community and the funds we have, right? So that's very promising.
You're repeating that with Ray too. You know, it's an extension to an existing project.
Yeah.
It's also an English project, which makes it very interesting, and one of the very first English projects to sort of come out of the woodwork since that de facto ban was lifted.
Yes.
What's the sort of strategy with that project, and on a longer, bigger picture in terms of English onshore wind? Is that something that Vattenfall is attracted by, and do you have other projects in the works?
Yes, we are attracted by, and we have more projects. Ray 2 is in an early phase. It's in publication phase, and we have roughly 700 megawatts in England and 800 in Scotland in development. So yes, lifting the onshore ban was important and is helping, and we really believe we can build some very promising projects there.
You are listening to the Renews podcast. For breaking news or to access our exclusive market intelligence on the global renewables sector, subscribe at renews.biz. Now, back to the show.
We've seen locational issues around Tenuis in Scotland. It was a big talking point at the offshore panel earlier.
Yes.
In onshore, it has a similar impact depending on how far north you go. You're experienced, Vattenfall, in building projects in Scotland. Are those locational signals from Tenuis making you think differently about Scotland in the long term? And is that part of the reason why we see Ray 2 and maybe future projects start to emerge in England and possibly Wales?
I do understand the logic of having locational signals, and we are not against that. The devil is in the details, so we need to, and I mean, there's a consultation hopefully coming, and I would really wish for more involvement of us, because we are the experts and we know how it works. I'm lacking this a bit, to be honest. But yes, we are building projects in England and Scotland, and I trust in that the grid fees potentially also coming are not as huge as to totally deter investment in Scotland, because what people sometimes forget, also demand is not static. It's not like we have all demand in England and therefore let's build only in England. I mean, a data center could be built in Scotland, and if the fundamentals are better, like more wind speeds, for example, then it might make more sense to have more wind in Scotland, locate some demand there, and have an overall system which is more cost efficient. So it depends on these details, and I haven't seen these details.
Sticking with the grid on a slightly different point, I think you mentioned Gate 2 briefly there.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear a lot about delays and issues in Gate 2. Could you really map it out for our listeners exactly what is the process for developers in Gate 2, what has gone wrong, and how much difficulty it is causing to near-term project?
Yes, and again, in principle, I very much like the approach of grid reform. Projects blocking the grid that are not viable is not helping anyone. So the intention is right, and then it's about the implementation. I think it helps kicking out some projects, even if it's hard, also for us sometimes, because we are now with some projects we have invested in, and we are now out there in the 2030s, right? It's not nice, but in the overall picture it makes sense. Where it is more difficult is that we are desperately waiting for some, for example, Gate 2 offers. Yeah, we want to hand in our projects into AI8, but if we are waiting on this offer, we are waiting, and we can't do it. So It might be a resource issue, but so speeding this up and reducing this time of uncertainty is really key for deploying more wind, because nobody invests in times of uncertainty. Also the grid reform, also the grid charges potentially. We need clarity, and the offers need to come soon. And that's the topic.
With AR8, the offers might not come, but I think there is a recognition on government's behalf of that uncertainty, if I'm not mistaken. Are you seeing anything around AR8 that might allow you that little bit of flexibility on Gate 2 grid offers to be able to bid in with confidence?
Yes, but it's also fair to say that we will also have some projects for the next AR9, and sometimes you are with your project on this in this tight spot where you might make it. It's a matter of weeks or so, and then some leeway is helpful. But in principle, we have to speed this up, the process. We have to be faster in doing that.
Well, switching to offshore, Vattenfall again has a long track record in the UK in offshore.
Yes.
We have, however, seen obviously recently the departure from the, and I always get the pronunciation wrong on this one, the Muir-Vore
Don't ask me for
project.
that correct pronunciation.
Well, an Irishman should be able to get Scots Gaelic at least. Obviously, that's a departure from an early stage project. It leaves Vattenfall with nothing, I think, in offshore wind in the UK in terms of early stage projects. Can you give us a bit of a sense of like what that departure, why you took that decision, and what it means for the company in terms of offshore wind in the UK going forward?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we are one of the leaders in offshore wind globally. Also operating many offshore wind farms in many different European countries, and we believe in offshore, and that is our core technology. It's really key for Vattenfall. In the UK, you rightly say that we do not continue on the Muir-Vore project, or this is done by Fred Olsen. The reasoning behind is prioritization. We are having quite a large pipeline. I wouldn't say globally because we're only in northwestern Europe, more so to say, but we have a large pipeline there, and then we are now building currently Nordlicht in Germany. We're talking about an FID in Netherlands. So we have Vattenfall is a big company, but our funds are not unlimited. So we have to prioritize.
There are new opportunities arising in UK offshore wind, whether
Yes.
it be what appears to be a fairly healthy M&A situation with some fairly advanced projects, and then round 6, which is coming over the coming months and into next year, a lease auction. You know, given Vattenfall has that track record in UK offshore wind, will we see the company perhaps look at something opportunistic, or maybe be involved in the more greenfield development space around round 6?
Yes, the UK is an important market for us. We have operational offshore here, and we have the competence here. And therefore, we indeed will look at future seabed leasing rounds and future projects, and that is attractive to us, yes.
What's your view, Claus, finally? I mean, looking at your LinkedIn bio, you've spent a lot of time in offshore wind too.
Yeah.
When you look at offshore wind generally, obviously you're UK head and it's one of the leading markets for offshore wind. But when you look at the last few years, it's been a bumpy ride, I think, to put it mildly, for offshore wind. One of the panel sessions this morning was titled, "Is offshore wind back on track after AR7?" What's your sense of that question, and what also could be done to help, I guess, a positive answer to that?
Yeah, I remember I was a project director in Dantusk, a German project, many years ago, and there we have seen some cost increases, and I was asking my team, okay, what kind of SUE do you believe in 5 years? And then the prediction was not too promising, and then it went down. So the team or I was wrong, right? So we have seen more cost decreases. Then the opposite, we have seen cost increases. This is difficult for the industry, and I really do believe in offshore going forward, especially in our part of the world here. We have some advantages with the North Sea, for example, and we will see a larger build-out. Important is that we have a stable build-out, so that we see investments of the supply chain into factories, into new platforms. So this up and down doesn't help at all, and that is key. So I'm also happy to see in Denmark that we see some new auction rounds and upcoming in the UK and other countries. So it's important to have this a sizable growth each year, which is then securing the supply chain. So, and that I have the feeling now is dawning on more people and more politicians, and is more and more implemented. So I'm quite hopeful there.
And just to finish on the point we started on, to bring it full circle, in the UK, the current administration is certainly committed to AR8, AR9, regular auctions, grid reform, planning reform, so on. But politically, you know, if the local election results were to be repeated in a national election, there would be parties who have said that they would actually rip up CFD contracts. Is that a concern on the horizon?
Yeah, I also got a letter from Richard Tice claiming that. I don't think it's legally possible, but it's of course it's a concern. At the same time, the fundamentals are also we do need new generation, and it won't be expensive gas. And then we have built South Gyle in the UK without any subsidies or any CFD scheme. We do this in Germany currently in Nordlicht. So then I hope there's PPAs emerging again. So there's a way. That's our company motto, by the way. So I believe in it.
Is it not motherfucking wind farms?
No, we changed to there's a way.
Claus Wattendrup, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The Renews podcast was produced and edited by me, Stephen Dunn. Click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. For more exclusive market intelligence on the renewable sector, see renews.biz.